Hello, and welcome to Mess of Comedy Classics. Here is, I have the Time Circle Capsule today, but I have but this time I would like to read the, the main summary of various other books that are, wait, there were more. Albert Spinkenheimer. You've got Sean Schoen. This is the main, so it's sort of like the Pixar theory of it's sort of like the Pixar theory of mess of comedy things, and I'll look in this main. Okay. Book 1, Oolong. At the end of time, there was, taking a while to click. At the end of time, there was the Datans Oolong. The Datans Oolongs built their society on crushing matter into pure energy. Their name meant men of the sphere and unlie, with an O for the universe, a small one with a pinched off top for the head, and 2 arcs for the arms and legs. Long. But they had used up all the energy they could find. A mysterious Oolong of unknown gender found the answer by creating a pocket universe. They wanted the universe just like their own, but smaller. So a moderately sized energy source would be magnified to larger than all of the universe's energy. Oolong bent the strings of the universe itself to make their tools, bringing with them a machine that can build anything from the atoms up, a machine that can create a whole universe from a single seed, in the near infinite energy source dubbed the infinity sphere. Oolong started with a simple cube found in their lab, creating a universe from that seed. They found themselves in a primitive, war-torn world. The denizens of the world saw Oolong as a god. Oolong asked them where the next seed could be found. They asked Oolong how to end the war. Oolong took out their tools and made a great bomb. Oh wait, I think it's this one. Telling them that if one is used, the world will end, but if both sides have it and both sides threaten it, there will be no choice but to make peace. So Oolong got the next seed and set off to the next universe. Oolong appeared in the next universe. The land was desolate and the people were small. Let's see, where's God? The people saw Oolong as a god. They said they would give Oolong the seed for a food source. So Oolong took the machine that can create energy and used it to duplicate, or that can create anything, and used it to duplicate itself. This machine has the seeds of 1,000 crops. With it, any one can be had in an instant. Satisfied with their prize, they gave over the seed to the next universe. When Oolong appeared in the third universe, they were seen not as God, but a witch. They were surrounded by a city, a primitive city. Oolong took out their trusty computer. Carefully, in the right order, they explained themselves. 10,000 years of science in one day, from atoms to computers, to the Oolong's own technology. They backed down, but they had no seed. Oolong had to get to the future, but had no technology for that. The people of this universe, having heard Oolong's lecture, made one for them, and they were off. Oolong awoke from the special cryogenics in a different city, a futuristic city. with domes of cement and steel floating on the water. But the water was green with sludge. The people had their seed, but they wanted the water cleaned in return. So Oolong took out the machine that can create anything and duplicated it again. They said, "This machine can suck up pollution from the water and make it into anything you may need. Use it well and your ecosystem will thrive endlessly, as does nature." Oolong got the seed and went to the next universe. Now Oolong was aboard a spaceship. Aboard a spaceship. On it were the Celions. Okay, probably take the Celions. On it were the Celions. Okay, let's see. On it were the Celions, a race of advanced beings who could design whole worlds. Oolong knew they were in the right universe, but they were shifted from Earth. Oolong would die long before they found Earth. Oolong told the Celions that they were from the future and gave them the Time Circle Capsule. The Time Circle Capsule was to make sure the universe was the same. It contained a book which the owner could write about themselves. This could be matched to a pre-recorded copy to confirm the universe was the same. Oolong left. It also contained a copy. Oh, wait, no. This would be matched to a pre-recorded copy to confirm the universe was the same. Oolong left. It also contained a copy of Oolong's brain in case it was needed, a machine to create anything from the infinite energy source. These were the Datans Oolong. Book Celion. Book 2, Celions. The Celions existed for billions of years without finding Earth, so they got bored and started creating planets of their own. The first planet was Capithon. Its inhabitants were designed after the machine that can create anything, or the kaleidoscopic atomic printer. There were balls of crystal, and objects broke up and flowed through them. They floated on the Capithonian seas and began to advance. They first began to create each other, covering the waves. They created objects that passed back and forth for communication. They invented rockets early on, whereas levers were only in the theoretical realm for them. They created a network that acted as the mind of a god between them. Then they began to become ignorant. They ran out of food and slowly devoured each other and the planet. They became fairly insignificant to the Celions, and the Celions moved on. Next, they created the Vox Gardeners. The Vox Gardeners were designed after the Pym. They were meant to be able to form cities and break off as they please. This had turned out well for Anlia. They evolved from lesser life forms, living their whole life inside their eggs, gardening giant volvoxes, and so they were called Vox Gardeners. They would not early on form free transitive communities. Instead, they formed large continents that warred for eons. Eventually, one took over. The Celions planted the idea in a farmer. It spread to the aristocracy, but it was not for long. The population went down as it does in developed countries. The Vox Gardeners gravitated towards their own ways. They soon were extinct. The Celions went on to create Coquelion. Coquelion was a world where green masses of algae floated on the deep ocean. A species similar to humans evolved from cephalopods and reached the surface. They started performing science beneath the waves and with upside down beakers filled with gas. They could transfer knowledge in vitro through the umbilical cord. Their technology quickly accelerated them to the Celions' attention. The Celions rewarded them with the secrets of the universe. Coquelions used this technology to create a great war. Okay. The moon was made to crash into the planet. The once green surface was born black with the heat. Coquelions formed 3 cities. They were named A, Aleph, and Alpha. They all wanted to be A with the others in B and C, but they couldn't decide which one. They made a task force and took the Time Circle Capsule from the Stellions. They broke it up. City A got the infinite energy source and formed the Intergalactic Defenders of Peace. City Alpha got Oolong's brain and formed the Intergalactic Defenders of Intelligence. City Aleph got the Kaleidoscopic Atomic Printer and formed the Intergalactic Defenders of Creation. These organizations went around the universe preventing atrocities on the planetary scale. Book 3, Xenotarians. Datin Alpha Xenotari was the name of the next Intergalactic Defender of Intelligence. She learned her way through school starting from the bottom up, learning first the laws of the universe and the seed. She eventually could calculate where everything in the universe would fall. It wasn't long before the Xenotarians found Earth. When Datin was in college, she was cocky. She was at the level where she would use an electron microscope for the first time. But she wanted to observe nuclear fusion firsthand. The professor walked away to get some equipment. She hurried to her experiment. She blew off her entire lower body that day. Professor Entar gave her all his attention that way forward. She made herself an amorphous prosthesis. Able to take any shape she imagined. She then went off to become the Intergalactic Defender of Intelligence. There was one on Earth, a great threat. There was on Earth a great threat to intelligence, a cartoonist who called himself. Oh, I don't have an image of that. But it's Mr. Stupid. A cartoonist who called himself Mr. Stupid was making absurd cartoons. Wherever they were shown, the intelligence of entire cities would be reduced to cartoonish idiocy. Datin's shuttle landed in LaGuardia Airport on September 1st, 1989. She went to the customs booth with her intergalactic passport. The customs man thought she was weird, but didn't notice that she was a real alien. On her first fight with Mr. Stupid, she thought she could beat him on merit of her technology and superior wit. She was wrong. His cartoonishly wavy arms made a good match for her amorphous prosthetic, and he was surprisingly quick. She fought battle after battle. Through a dream, she was reminded of his true power. She hatched a plan. She snuck into a carnival and watched Mr. Stupid's cartoon on the big screen. Made a cartoon of her own to lure him to her ship, and followed him to his main base when he escaped. Mr. Stupid revealed a machine which he had been using to suck the city dry of intelligence. He captured Datin and took all of hers, but when he gained her intelligence, he gained her knowledge of good and evil. He gained her soul, and it overpowered his own. He reversed the machine, and everyone got their intelligence back. Mr. Stupid was left with none. His brother Harrison returned from his vegetable-like state and explained to Datin and her crew. He built the machine to help his mentally handicapped brother, but his brother went mad with power and became Mr. Stupid. The crew detained them both, and that was the end for a while. Late at night, on the axial moon of Coquelion, where the Time Circle Capsule was being kept, a spherical rock-like alien rocketed in, stealing the brain of Oolong. When shouted after by a guard, he simply shouted back, Datin was prepared. She ordered Bobar, the captain, to set off to Capathon. They picked up the Capathite with the brain inside and took them aboard. In the brig, Saren, the corrector of intelligence, had been teaching Harrison all about the universe. They interrogated the Capathite and found she was just a decoy. Datin came in and did not like what she saw. Harrison really had potential, said Saren. Danton eventually obliged. It was not a mistake, as Harrison found the infamous instantly. But the Capethite known as triangle, circle, triangle, arrow, triangle, square was no thief. He was sent by Olong and the god of his own god of the hypernaural Capethon to return the capsule home to Earth. Book 4, Earth. And this is the page of the infamous where they return the Capethite, or they return the brain to Earth. Daniel Parks was born right at the cusp of a divorce. When he was 2, he loved God, the world, and art. When he was 3, however, he got frustrated with the world and went his own way. He came up with the land of Belugada, where everything was different. When he was 5, he came up with a new name for himself to be different from all the others. He met his new stepdad at the age of 8. He began to invent and would someday have over 100 inventions. When he was 10, something embarrassing came to pass. He broke off from his friends and went more and more inward. He produced a comedy show when he was 11 in his playroom. Mess of comedy. It was in the piles of junk that he found the Time Circle Capsule. He left the middle school with straight A's but no friends. His mom sent him off to charter school for high school. He had so many inventions he needed to invent something to make them all. He invented the kaleidoscopic atomic printer. He used the kaleidoscopic atomic printer in the personal infrastructure module to create Bulgada, now called Anlia. That's how he wanted. He wanted to until his plans crashed. He then made his inventions into one book, The Datin, named after data and human. A boy by the name of Albert Hack, whose parents had been recently murdered, bought the Datin for $200,000. Daniel went on to go through college and created the Stardust kaleidoscopic atomic printer. First came the inventions, then the food. A rich man by the name of Michael Greenberg was constructing a city to replace the flooded New York. In competition with his brother Michael Blueberg, Greenberg, North Carolina became the first city with a Stardust infrastructure. Stardust flowed through the walls and you could print anything in your home. It was at a coffee shop in Greenberg that Daniel met Albert Schwinkenheimer and gave him the capsule. Schwinkenheimer was born in the year 2000 with no teeth, but unlike the norm, he never grew any. He got his first pair of dentures when he was 2. When he was 8, he covered the Obama campaign for his school paper. When he was 16, he did the same for Donald Trump. He went off to Flushing Community College at the normal age, but never went on to 4-year. The economy got better in 2020, and he spent his college fund on. Well, this is written in 2017, that dates this. And he spent his college fund on a Tesla Roadster. He spray painted cars in Arburg, Texas. He once met a man named Charles Berry who had dirt lodged in his pickup from a gravel truck. He said, "You could pay me a lot to get that gravel removed, or you could just let me paint around it." He painted islands around the dirt with a blue finish all around them. When he was done, Chuck asked him to join the Curmudgeon Club. He did join the club, and Ground Chuck, as he was known from then on, took them on many adventures. But the economy went bad again, and Spink got laid off from his job at the garage. He searched for a job for years. Luckily, the New York Lampoon published an article about roadside translators. They needed to hire real translators to cover up their lie. Schmink is working as a translator in Baja California border when he was hit by when he was hit by a piece of trash thrown from a car. He tumbled down the hill into a village of Uggans. Uggans are ferocious little men with 4 noses who will kill any who discover them. But they didn't expect a man of 30 to have dentures. He broke the vines holding him and escaped, kidnapping the Uggan king. He packed up with his 3-year-old daughter Eileen, and they went to Lexington, Wisconsin to sell the Uggan to the university for research. The university lost the Uggan, but life went on for Spink. Eileen met her husband, Professor John Garfield, there. They begat Irwin and Squirrelin Garfield. Irwin had no upper lip and no bottom teeth. Squirrelin had buck teeth and 4 ears. Squirrelin was the Adam child. Albert retired to Greenberg in 2050. He and Daniel made a reality show about his family called Meet the Garfields. But all good things must end. Irwin was molested by Charles McDonald Berg in 2066 because he was the brother of the mayor, who was virtually immune. Irwin went quickly insane after that. Albert died in 2080, but Squirrelin began to succeed, now the main focus of Eileen and John. Albert, on his deathbed, gave the Time Circle Capsule to the trusted confidant, Sean Schoen. Chapter 3. Uggan Corkin Schoen was the king of the Schoen around. He controlled tribes from Vancouver to Baja. He feared the day that he would become an enough. He would grow to a height of 6 feet, and the tribe would all have to kill him because he would be too hard to conceal. He was taken away, trying to kill a human that dared to discover them, and he was taken to a strange, clean room. And just like that, he was gone again. Famed musician Liberty Kaiser Bronson and her husband, Justice, had rescued him. They raised him as their own until he became an enough. As an enough, he blended in with the humans. He was called Sean Schoen. He went back to the university where his professor was none other than John Thorne Garfield. Professor Garfield had a project that could supplant the kaleidoscopic atomic printer. It was an entirely organic printer. He would project radio waves into an organic slime. Engineered viruses would transcribe those radio waves into RNA, and the cell that RNA into protein. Sean helped him with the project. Dr. Garfield could not get any investors interested. One night he ran out of his lab with this contraption. He was the supervillain Dr. Thorne. No, I like the original better. One night he rampaged out of his lab with his contraption. He was the supervillain Dr. Thorne. When he was taken down by a strange team of heroes, Sean helped him out. He got him his job back and everything. Sean shattered Daniel his entire career. When Spingenheimer died, he went public about being an Uggan, and Sean and Daniel went off to create Anlia in the style of the Uggans. Book 5, Anlia. Anlia was started out of 903 Center, the Stardust headquarters in California. PIMs would be printed in the store and float out to sea. There was the main Anlia just outside of 903 Center where people would meet. There was a port in Greenberg connected by a route through the Panama Canal. There were the communist utopias just offshore. In the middle of the North Pacific Ocean lie 904 Center, where the Pacific trash gyre was recycled by Stardust, and where the tree-like space elevators stretched into the sky. Around it for the havens for corporations to thrive. Among Anlia's residents were runaway children who were looking for a life, refugees with nowhere else to go, reclusive inventors who in Anlia could subsist indefinitely, political scientists looking for the ground to experiment on, and criminals for whom a small number of cities would open their doors. Most would have them wear Stardust suits that physically prevented them from committing further crime. Dr. Dr. Parks died. Mom modified this recently, but I don't think I'll go with it. It says Daniel went on to get a PhD in Stardust studies, but I'm thinking Daniel decided to call himself Datton Risk and then Dr. Risk because he had created so many things that would fill a doctorate. Dr. Risk died in May of 2110. He had been in 3 centuries. It was just in time to be uploaded to 904 Center servers. 100 years passed and new technology arose. Parts of several uploaded brains could be combined to form a new one, a data human. With this technology, they could elect a perfect leader and duplicate him to all Anlia's courts. Data could be run by people and not by laws. They produced Datton Risk as an experiment. Datton Low Risk. I call it Datton Low Risk. But he was too heavy with the more primal parts of the brain. He created a wife, but he abused her. Then he realized what he had done and sent her and his son off. Since he designed her to love him unconditionally, she returned years later. He was better to her this time. He then created a daughter, Pure Risk. Pure was not born of her mother. She was made from data to be Pure Risk. She took the form of her mother and slept with Datton. Datton noticed pleasantly that she was more a complete person than before. But when he found out she was pure, he hated himself and banished them all from his Anlia. Pure and her brother floated around Anlia to explore. When Pure found out that they were planning on filling the Cortons with Dattons, she was appalled. Instead opting for her own idea of hyperneurals, the parts of the brain of Anlia would still link together as they did in a Datton, but they would be inside the people. But they would be still inside the people and linked together by the internet. She went off to the U.S. never to be seen again. The U.S. threatened war over what is called human rights violations. Fearing war, Anlia sunk 903 Center into the sea and went into hiding. Another 100 years passed, and it was 2332. Anlia had become a society of Dattons. Sex had been erased from popular culture. Instead, Anlian musicians sung of the search for you. So that's different than in the Datton Athena story. Instead, Anlian musicians sung of the search for unique identity among thousands of copies. To have a baby the old-fashioned way was now illegal, so no person's childhood would be spent without the rights and cognition of an adult. This made the population grow gradually insane as they recycled the minds of the population of the nation endlessly. They needed to produce a war branch so they could make themselves known and return to the Peace Council. Datton Athena were created as that branch. They had the ability to read minds via satellites and cause instant death to anyone who might be a threat. One Datton Athena was playing video games before they were deployed. The humans who were Dattons who had been retired, been incarnated, and found their unique identity, ganged up on the Dattons. If you could beat a Datton, you were above average. Datton Athena grew to hate Anlia. When they were deployed, they found the Mystics. These were the followers of Pure Risk. Datton Athena helped them to take over the U.S., now just a dense collection of cities surrounded by forests. When Anlia heard, they impeached Datton Athena and ran away again, spreading into space in all directions. The Anlians evolved into Blugadalians. The Blugadalians evolved into Blugadechians, and the Blugadechians evolved into the Dattons Olam. The Time Circle Capsule, now duplicated into all the ships, made its way to Olong, and the Datton's Olong had a power source until the end of time. I'd like to see how long that is. So that's I think like as time goes on, things get more and more acceptable in the made-up worlds. It's maybe the whole pseudo Daton incest might be less acceptable, but I was expecting there'd be mention of Charlie Mackberg going to Anlia as a prisoner. Which is sort of a non-punishment. But not really. That was how I got the Bergs to pay for the starting of Anlia. So I will see you in the future, future Daton.